Alright, so we're going to be doing another article on Power Rangers. This time it's from a stunt coordinator. So it says Netflix Power Rangers Dino Fury stunt director. You can't do anything if you're paralyzed by fear. Paralyzed by fear. I think there's a guilty conscience with guilt comes along with it in terms of try to do your best that you can to give people what they want. Especially if you're like a director or a stunt coordinator, to make sure that everything is always perfect. But instead, that could go south within 5 minutes if it's not right completely. Because back then, I felt like you could get away with everything when it comes to the martial arts fights. Because I remember in the on-air pilot episode of Mighty Morphin, Austin St. John, he pretty much said in the on-air pilot fight scene, his foot connected to Bulk's face, violent blows to the face, to the head, in martial arts TV shows and movies, especially in kid shows and movies as well. Since in Power Rangers nowadays, since they rebooted the Day of the Dumpster episode, you cannot do that anymore. And if you look at like around mid-season 2, when they were still doing civilian fights, it was an episode when Tommy, Kimberly, and Billy were fighting. You can tell that Jason David Frank really wanted to kick the police in the face the way he does these 3 tornado kicks to the face, and it looked real. So I think in early season 1, they were trying to transition from different fight scenes when it comes to try to give blows to the face and try to be more, like a cool martial arts TV show, but done in a flashy style. Like, now the Power Rangers is home with Netflix. I feel like, they could just go all out, with the fight scenes. Like, I really do think they need to change the way they do these fight scenes instead of like, giving it blows to the body part all the time. Like, that has been played out since Mighty Morphin. So, you gotta change up somehow. So, let's get on with the article. Everyone was in love with the Power Rangers series at some point in their life. Most of us still are. Mainly because of those amazing stunt actors in the show performed from episode to episode. These stunts, no matter how unbelievable complex they look, made a calculus planned by seasoned professionals like, I can't pronounce these last names, but the stunt choreographer and longtime Power Rangers second unit director. Mr. Noguchi's career as a stunt performer and then stunt choreographer is closely connected to the evolution of Hasbro's Power Rangers series. He has trained Power Rangers actors for over 2 decades and brought the fight scenes in the latest Power Rangers Dino Fury season, available on Netflix, to life. Being the action mastermind behind some of these creative sequences, Mr. Noguchi's choreographed fights for multiple episodes since 2000's Power Rangers Lightspeed Rescue, ran training boot camps for different Power Ranger casts, and trained with the Japanese stunt teams for years. I've always thought that the fight scenes kind of look familiar because I think in Lightspeed Rescue, their fight scenes were a bit fast and quick, where in Mighty Morphin, it was kind of like your normal standpoint. But I feel like in editing department, they feel like they just fight scenes to be more like fast forward fights, like in certain episodes in mid season 1. But I think in Lightspeed Rescue, the fight scenes were a bit different in terms of being fast paced and quick child. I think that could play the role of how we see these fight scenes in later Disney seasons like Ninja Storm and Dino Thunder and SPD. Jungle Fury and even RPM. And I wouldn't count the Neo Saban's era seasons as a part of the franchise, even though they are, but their fight scenes are just too short. where Saban and Disney seasons, they lasted about a minute or two. And I kind of wish that we could just go back to those days of having the fight scenes last for about 2 minutes. Because if you like shooting one fight scenes within 54 seconds, it's not only a waste of time, but I feel like it's kind of a disrespect, to the franchise. I get it. You wanted to play safe, but at the same time, you shouldn't be afraid to take risk in terms of being violent in a kid show. It's a martial arts TV show. Like, this is not SpongeBob or Barney the Dinosaur. Like, this is Power Rangers, a boy brand. You shouldn't have to be afraid to take higher risk of giving blows to the face, but try to do it as flashy as possible without making it look so fake and generic. You know what I'm saying? Let's continue. We sat down with him to discuss his career, how he trains his actors, and how he used to work out when he was going stunts activities. One stunts is the process of, has he got any helpful tips for people aspiring to be stunt performers? So we're gonna go to his answers and quotes for that. So you're ready for this one. If the Power Rangers were real, what exercises should they do to keep fit and ready for action? So this is what we have to say. An interesting question. It would be necessary to have training that combines rescue teams and police special forces so that they could be dispatched at any time. Rescue squads are training to safely rescue victims of disasters and accidents, and police special forces are trained to control bad guys who threaten general public. Training is conducted assuming various situations. Power Rangers must be the strongest team globally, so they should be trained beyond their expectations. Additionally, isn't it the training to operate the Megazord really unique to Power Rangers? How much exercise is needed, such as making full use of that giant robot and sometimes fight giant monsters in martial arts? I don't think it's at a level of training to operate tasks and cranes at construction sites. All of this said, I feel that the percentage of training that used to bring is higher than that physical training. Now, this is interesting because I feel like he's like talking about how the special forces were trained differently and how these stunt actors were trained in Hollywood. But in real life, if you're training in the police force, you better be ready to come with guns and everything, because what you're about to go through, the career as a policeman, you better be ready to face criticism and harsh realities of being a cop. There are some bad cops out here, but the good ones know how to protect and serve the community. Some do, but not all of it. Because what's going on right now, you see these police officers racially profiling black people all the time and purposely beating the brakes out of them. And you wonder why a lot of people really hate police officers because of it. So that can make sense. But at the end of the day, if you're like a police officer or a rescue team, you better make sure you protect and serve those who need help. Don't go into these non-situations with Karens calling the cops on black people for no reason and just to be on the Karen side. Like, we got real problems to worry about nowadays. So that could make sense of why he said these things. It's really different of how you train these Ranger actors with little to no martial arts experience, which is sad, and I kind of wish they would go back to doing stuff like that, but they can't. They just keep picking models and all of that. Like, you really gotta stop that. Seriously. Let's continue. Is there a stunt sequence you're most proud of from any of the Power Rangers projects you were involved in? My favorite stunts I've done is the Red Rangers' first post-mortem battle in the episode 2 Power Rangers of SPD, where incorporate virus elements into one shot and a relatively large setup, including advanced wire stunts and many explosions. The wire stunts with the explosions in the background elevate an energetic battle scene substitute for the first battle of the Red Ranger. Power Rangers SPD was the first Power Ranger series I filmed in New Zealand, and I just wanted to make an incredible action scenes. Each season has memorable stunts, but this is the stunt I'm proud of. And you know what? Here's the thing about SPD for what it is. It's a season that really inspired people to want to be police officers in terms of, police work, Commander Kruger's storylines, and the first, I think it was the first episode or the second episode when Jack becomes the Red Ranger, and you can clearly see how the stunt coordinator really had an energetic style. But most of it was shot from Deca Ranger, the season adapted for SPD. And I can see what he was talking about, and it makes sense because the Red Ranger's stunt coordinator was very energetic in terms of like the wild works. And moving on, have you performed any Power Ranger stunts you're proud of? I have a lot. I played the Black Ranger in Mighty Morphin Alien Rangers. Boo, that trash season. In that action sequences, I used a trampoline to show off a double backflip and double front flip and a half twist. I don't think anyone did the sequence with the mask on at that time. It was a ninja character, so I think it was a perfect sequence. In Power Rangers Lightspeed Rescue, I set a mini trampoline on top of a truck and it was blown up, and I landed during a double front flip. This is my favorite high fall, and I've shown in other works. I did a Guyver kick, which everyone from the action industry to laugh. Yeah. As far as like Mighty Morphin Alien Ranger goes, I really feel like that season should not be called Alien Rangers. It should be called Mighty Morphin Ninja Rangers, because if you actually think about it, season 3 was adapted by Kaku Ranger. Now, I read on Instagram that Saban was going to call it Ninja Rangers when the Mighty Morphin Rangers were turning into kids at the time still, which is one of the worst things to ever happen in season 3. But Ninja Rangers would make so much sense, because I don't know why he would call it the Alien Rangers back in 1996. I think 95. It was one of the laziest things that you could do for a Power Ranger franchise. It just made Mighty Morphin Power Rangers feel like an afterthought. And I've said this all the time. When it comes to the Alien Rangers, I feel like they just made a mockery out of Kaku Ranger. Them aliens being ninjas, stupid. Just stupid. And like I said, if Boom Studio Comics would have called it Mighty Morphin Ninja Rangers, it would have made so much sense for them to adopt Kaku Ranger in the Boom Studio Comics. Like, that would make so much sense and give the better explanation as to why the Rangers were turned back to kids. And Zona would have recruited their ancestors that are ninjas instead of aliens. That's just a bad look. And if you look at Kaku Ranger, that could make so much sense. Man, I wish I was a writer, man. I would have thrown that inside of that TV show. Sounds intense. What did your workout routine look like when you were actively doing stunts? My action is based on traditional Japanese karate. Practicing my routine of hand and foot techniques, the main idea was how to make the karate technique look good on video while shooting on a video of myself. I repeatedly checked and fixed my foot. I recently checked and fixed my front and side forms in front of the mirror. So he basically said that when he would practice martial arts, he has to make sure that it looks perfect, whether it's in mirrors or creating the video. So you want to make sure that your forms look on point, even if you're on camera while filming the fight scenes or whatever, though. So I like what he had to say. I will individually check each of the foot techniques, such as the front kicks and roundhouse kicks, and the hand techniques such as thrusting, punching, blocking, and avoiding to see how to make them look the most powerful and speedy. Martial arts fight scenes are the combination of basic techniques, and if each technique is done well, it will be a convincing fight scene when combined. Also, I think I spend more time analyzing how to use my body than the technique itself, such as moving smoothly and quickly when it connected techniques. Another part of my routine was trampoline practice. I practice on the trampoline carefully because if I make a mistake in the landing poster, it would lead to a big accident. However, you can't do anything if you're paralyzed by fear, which was said in the title. So you need the courage. I repeatedly practiced the techniques I wanted to do on set, such as double front flips and double back flips. The Power Rangers put on a mask and performed the techniques. The visual restriction also enhanced fear, so it is important to develop a physical sense and balance that does not rely on vision. There was also practice with all performers. It's a place for me to actually try out my skill that I improved in my personal practice. Now look, I'm just going to be honest here. I literally feel like, to me, as a Power Rangers fan, I think as a Power Rangers fan, I feel like, you want to make sure that all the stunts on the show are performed perfectly without suffering any injuries or fatal accidents. Like I said, it depends on how the show turns out. Because like I said, just seeing this stuff performed like this since Let's Be Rescued for almost 30 years from now, that could also play a big role in terms of how to practice martial arts before you go on camera to actually perform a stunt, but playing it safe at the same time. So let's continue. A stunt in any movie you admire or wish was done and or by you, something like that. I don't think there was any particular work I wanted. I was doing my best with each job I was offered. In Steve Wayne's movie, The Drive, I held on to a pipe halfway from a height of about 8 meters, twisted my body during the fall, and fell into the ground with no mat. Unfortunately, the shot was too dark to be used in the film. However, I remember being happy to hear that my stunts led to a subsequent increase in... Wow. So I think, to me, this kind of makes sense. Like, if you're in Hollywood, you really got to be careful of doing stunts like this, because it's only a matter of time before, something bad is going to happen if you actually dislocate your body parts, such as your arm, your knee, your ankle. I think the biggest lesson we all learn in Hollywood is whenever you're doing stunts like this, you got to make sure that you are doing it for the right reasons, because when he said he landed on concrete, that's the worst and one of the most horrific experience anybody can do, especially if you're a martial artist. But I think for Power Rangers, it's kind of like a safe place where you have mats on the floor, so that way you wouldn't have any incidents breaking your back, just to make the stunt look so cool, if you ask me. So let's talk about the actors you work with now. Did they have to go through any training before the shoot? If so, what workouts did they do? Some actors have experience in action and sports, but they weren't able to do Power Ranger style action right away. So we trained them for 3 weeks leading up to filming. We taught the actors how to avoid danger such as hits, kicks, and passes, and how to show effective actions that shine in the show. So apparently, I just felt like, when it comes to fight scenes, like I said, that they really do need to bring back that fight scenes from the pilot episode. So in terms of giving blows to the face, like, you gotta bring that back at some point. So at some point, you're gonna have to, give the kids what they want. Like, they want to see some good fight scenes. They don't want to see fight scenes that are boring and out of touch. So for me, I would recommend them to go back to that on-air pilot episode days when they used to give blow to the face in terms of, physical violence goes. like I said before, you shouldn't have to be afraid to take that risk. Kids know what's real and what's fake. As long as they don't do stuff like that right now, then it wouldn't make sense. So then he continue on with this. How do you get the actors' stunts ready for a shoot? Due to a limited shooting time, I try to explain the action scenes to the actors and stunt performers as soon as possible. By doing so, the stunt performers will naturally think to improve the quality of the action and they communicate with the actors. Communication between stunt performers and actors is essential when shooting action scenes. I let each stunt performer practice the choreography with actors while I'm shooting over scenes or shot. The Power Rangers stunt team always prepares for the next action sequences in their spare time so that the shooting will proceed smoothly. When I have a wire stunt, I take other shots to give the stunt team time to prepare for it. And my assistant director is very good for wire stunts. Just the order of shots, like a pretzel base on my shot list. I have absolute trust in the crew on the second unit, and they also trust me. We have taught actors in many series so far in that process, and efficient action training manual was born naturally. Rather than planning training for each new season, the focus is on developing the skill and abilities to season. The focus is on developing this. I already said that. What's wrong with me? You see, this is why I don't like reading long articles, because when I read, I stutter. And then I would have to edit out my stutterings. Like, you know how I do. We have taught actors in many series so far in that process. An efficient action training manual was born naturally. Rather than planning training for each new season, the focus is on developing the skill and abilities to respond to any choreography in a short amount of time. And I really think that, like I said, they need to go back to filming small fight, like longer fight scenes, like with 2-minute fight scenes. So that way, they won't have to worry about the time limit of creating these fight scenes, like the unwarped fight scenes, for example, in the Disney seasons and the early Saban seasons. Those fight scenes, like I said, lasted for about 2 minutes. If you do that in the Hasbro era, I think the fans are going to love Power Rangers even more. As long as you let the actors do their own stunts. That's really all that matters, right? So, let's continue on. Finally, can you offer any fitness tips to inspiring stunt performers? In action training, all movements begins with relaxation of muscles. When you want to perform sharp techniques, increase the muscle strength, urges range from 0% to 100% instantly. Incorporate training routines that make good use of gravity and force. This will make your movements sharper and you won't get tired because you won't use unnecessary muscle strength. Or this was such a tough article to read, but at least we got through it despite some interruptions and issues. But like I said, if y'all want the article, I will post it in the description below. So I learned a lot from this article when it comes to 30 years of being a stunt coordinator for 2 decades, showing these actors that, hey, as long as y'all are doing your thing and try not to get hurt while, performing these, action scenes without, I think it would be great. But at the end of the day, it's all about how you perform and how you do on camera. So as long as it doesn't look cheesy and flashy and fake, all that matters is making sure the fight scenes are great, because martial arts is really important for a Power Rangers TV show and Jonathan Entwistle's Power Rangers universe. So, yeah. So, let me know what y'all thoughts on this in the comments down below. Or do you understand what my opinions were about the action stunts on the shows? Let me know in the comments down below, and I will see you in my next content.